Welcome back to Top Liberty Coins. Today we are taking a fascinating journey into the world of the 1984 Liberty coin, a date that can create confusion for collectors because more than one United States coin connected with Liberty and the year 1984 can appear in collections. Before we talk about value, rarity, condition, mint marks, and the possibility of a valuable discovery, there is one extremely important point that every serious collector should understand. A regular 1984 Kennedy half-dollar is not a walking Liberty half-dollar. The famous walking Liberty half-dollar series ended in 1947, while the Kennedy half-dollar began in 1964. However, 1984 also saw important commemorative coins connected with the Los Angeles Olympic Games, and one of those coins carries Liberty prominently in its design. That distinction matters because a coin's exact denomination, design, mint mark, composition, condition, and variety can completely change its collectible status and market value. So if you have a coin dated 1984 and you see the word Liberty on it, do not immediately assume that you are holding an extremely rare fortune. Instead, stop, examine the coin carefully, and learn exactly what you have. That is where the real excitement of coin collecting begins. The United States Mint explains that Liberty had been one of the most important symbolic figures on American coinage for generations, and by 1984 the classic circulating Liberty designs had already disappeared from everyday U.S. coinage. The 1984 Olympic commemorative program brought Liberty and American symbolism together with the excitement surrounding the Los Angeles Olympic Games, making 1984 an especially interesting year for collectors. The 1984 Los Angeles Olympiad Coliseum commemorative silver dollar was authorized to support the Olympic Games, and its design carries Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, Los Angeles, 1984, and XEI Olympiad on the obverse, with an eagle on the reverse. This is the kind of historical connection that can make a coin much more interesting than its face value alone. Imagine finding an old 1984 coin tucked away in a drawer, an inherited collection, an envelope, a box of coins, or perhaps an old family album. At first glance it may look like nothing more than an ordinary piece of metal from the 1980s. But then you notice the date. You notice the word Liberty. You turn it over and discover a design connected with the Olympic Games. Suddenly, the coin becomes a small piece of American history. That is why experienced collectors never judge a coin only by looking at the number printed on it. They look at the story behind the coin, the way it was produced, the number that were made, the condition of the individual specimen, and the demand among collectors. Now let's talk about one of the biggest questions that viewers always ask, and that question is simple: how much could a 1984 Liberty-related coin be worth today? The honest answer is that there is no single universal price for every 1984 coin. A circulated coin, an uncirculated coin, a proof, a commemorative silver dollar, a regular Kennedy half-dollar, and a certified high-grade example can all have completely different values. This is why you should be very careful whenever you see a claim that a common-looking coin is automatically worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Numbers such as $787,976.43 can make an exciting video title, but a number printed in a video does not make that the actual market value of a coin. Real value comes from identifiable coins, documented sales, condition, rarity, authentication, and what collectors are actually willing to pay. For top Liberty coins, we want the excitement to come from the discovery itself, not from inventing a price. If you own a 1984 coin, the first thing you should do is identify the denomination. Is it a half-dollar? Is it a commemorative silver dollar? Is it another type of coin or metal? Never begin valuation until you know exactly what you are looking at. Next, examine the date. Make sure the final digit is actually a 4. Old coins can have scratches, stains, reflections, or wear that make the date difficult to read. Once the date is confirmed, look for the mint mark. On a 1984 Kennedy half-dollar, the mint mark can help distinguish the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco issues. The regular 1984 Philadelphia Kennedy half-dollar had a reported mintage of about 26 million pieces, while the 1984 D. Kennedy half-dollar had a reported mintage of about 26.26 million pieces. The 1984 S. Kennedy half-dollar was made as a proof issue, with a reported mintage of about 3.06 million pieces. Those numbers immediately show why not every 1984 coin should be described as rare. Millions of examples were produced. But here is where coin collecting becomes much more interesting. Even when millions of coins were produced, individual examples can become more desirable because of exceptional condition, strong eye appeal, unusual errors, varieties, or certification at high grades. A coin that survived for decades without heavy circulation can look dramatically different from one that spent years moving through pockets, cash registers, drawers, and bags. Look closely at the high points of the design. On a Kennedy half-dollar, examine Kennedy's portrait, the hair details, the lettering, the date, and the surfaces around the fields. On a commemorative coin, study the Liberty design, the Olympic imagery, the inscriptions, and the reverse. Do not clean the coin. This is one of the most important rules we can give you today. A collector may think that a shiny coin must be worth more, but aggressive cleaning can permanently damage the original surface and may reduce its desirability. Natural toning, original luster, contact marks, hairlines, scratches, fingerprints, and polishing can all influence how professional collectors evaluate a coin. If your 1984 coin looks unusually bright, resist the temptation to scrub it. Leave the surface alone until you know what you have. Another important factor is whether the coin is a proof or a regular business strike. Proof coins are specially manufactured for collectors and can have distinctive mirrored fields and frosted design elements. A 1984 S. Kennedy half-dollar proof, for example, is a completely different collecting proposition from a regular 1984 P or 1984 D circulation strike. Some proof coins have especially attractive contrast between the mirrored fields and frosted devices, and collectors can pay attention to that quality when evaluating a specimen. The commemorative market works differently as well. The 1984 Los Angeles Olympic silver dollar is historically significant because it was part of the official U.S. commemorative program connected with the Olympic Games. The U.S. Mint records that the coin was created in support of the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics. The obverse featured an Olympic-themed design associated with the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, while the reverse featured an eagle. The coin carries a $1 denomination and has Liberty among its inscriptions. That combination of Liberty, the 1984 date, the Olympic Games, and silver composition makes it a fascinating piece for collectors interested in both American history and numismatics. Now think about what was happening in 1984. The United States was preparing to host one of the world's greatest sporting events. Los Angeles was becoming the center of international attention. Athletes from around the world were arriving for the Games. The Olympic torch, the rings, the stadium, and the spirit of competition became powerful symbols of the period. The United States Mint used commemorative coinage to connect this historic event with American numismatic history. A coin can therefore serve as more than money. It can become a miniature historical document. When you hold a 1984 commemorative coin today, you are holding something produced during a specific moment in American history, and that historical connection is part of its appeal. This is why coin collecting is not simply about finding something old. A coin does not have to be hundreds of years old to be interesting. Sometimes a coin from the 1980s can tell a story about an event, a person, a national celebration, a technological change, or an important moment in American culture. Now let's return to the subject of market value because this is where many online coin videos become misleading. You may see dramatic headlines claiming that a certain 1984 coin is worth $100,000, $500,000, or even $787,976. Those numbers should immediately make you ask a question: what exact coin, what exact grade, what exact variety, and what documented sale supports that number? Without those details, a huge price claim is not reliable evidence of market value. A collector should never assume that every coin with the same date is worth the highest price ever associated with a completely different specimen. Coin prices are specific. A regular circulated coin can be worth only a modest amount, while a rare error or exceptionally high-grade certified coin can bring considerably more. The difference is not magic. It comes from rarity, demand, condition, authentication, and documented market activity. For that reason, if you have a 1984 coin, take clear photographs of both sides and examine every detail before making any decision. Look at the date. Look at the mint mark. Look at the denomination. Look at the edge. Look for unusual doubling or design anomalies, but remember that many things that appear to be errors are actually damage created after the coin left the mint. A scratch is not automatically an error. A dent is not automatically a rare variety. A flattened letter is not automatically a double die. A strange color is not automatically evidence of valuable toning. The coin must be studied as a whole. This is why professional grading services and experienced dealers can be useful when a coin appears genuinely unusual or valuable. Authentication can be especially important when the potential value is high because the difference between an ordinary example and a truly rare example can be enormous. Condition is another major factor. Coin grading generally considers the amount of wear, the quality of the strike, the preservation of the surfaces, the amount of contact damage, the luster, and the overall appearance. Two coins from exactly the same year and mint can have very different values because one is heavily circulated and the other survived in exceptional condition. This is one of the greatest lessons in collecting. The date alone is only the beginning of the story. The same is true for the word liberty. Seeing liberty on a coin does not automatically mean it is a rare liberty coin. Liberty is a long-standing American numismatic symbol, and many different coins have used the word or figure of liberty throughout U.S. history. The United States Mint notes that liberty appeared on American circulating coins for more than 150 years, and the final circulating appearance of the classic Liberty figure on the half-dollar came with the Walking Liberty series in 1947. That means if someone shows you a 1984 coin and calls it a 1984 Walking Liberty half-dollar, you should carefully question that identification. The Walking Liberty half-dollar belongs to an earlier period. The 1984 date belongs to a later generation of American coinage, including Kennedy half-dollars and commemorative Olympic coins. Knowing this distinction can protect collectors from buying or selling a coin under the wrong description. Now let's imagine you discover a 1984 coin in an old collection. What should you do? First, do not panic. Second, do not clean it. Third, do not sell it to the first person who offers you money. Fourth, identify it carefully. Fifth, compare the coin with trustworthy references and documented sales. Sixth, if the coin appears rare, unusual, or exceptionally valuable, consider professional authentication and grading. This process may take longer than simply looking at an online price list, but it is much safer. The goal is not to turn every coin into a treasure story. The goal is to find the coins that genuinely deserve attention. There is another reason 1984 is interesting. The U.S. commemorative program was experiencing strong demand during the 1980s. The Mint states that commemorative coin programs returned in 1982 after a long break, and demand during the decade was strong. The Los Angeles Olympics program became one of the major commemorative programs of that period. That historical context gives 1984 coins an additional layer of interest for collectors. A collector may be interested in the coin because of its silver content, another collector because of the Olympic history, another because of the design, and another because of condition or certification. Different collectors can value the same object for different reasons. That is what makes the hobby so fascinating. Now let's talk about silver, because this is another area where confusion is common. Not every 1984 US coin is silver simply because it has a Liberty design or commemorative appearance. Composition depends on the specific issue. You must identify the exact coin before assuming that it contains precious metal. If you have a 1984 Olympic commemorative silver dollar, that is a different category from a regular 1984 Kennedy half-dollar. The regular Kennedy half-dollar of this period used a copper-nickel composition rather than the 90% silver composition associated with earlier Kennedy half-dollars. So if you have a 1984 Kennedy half-dollar, do not assume that its metal content is the same as a 1964 Kennedy half-dollar. This is a critical lesson for anyone searching through old coins. The year can tell you a lot, but the year does not tell you everything. Denomination matters. Mint mark matters. Composition matters. Strike type matters. Condition matters. Variety matters. Provenance can sometimes matter too. Now imagine the excitement of finding a coin with an unusual mint error. A genuine mint-made error can attract collectors because it represents something that happened during production rather than damage that occurred afterward. But genuine errors should be verified carefully. Coin collecting has many examples of damaged coins being mistaken for errors. A coin may be bent, scraped, struck outside the mint, exposed to chemicals, heated, plated, or altered by someone after production. These alterations can create unusual appearances without creating numismatic rarity. This is why experienced collectors learn to distinguish mint errors from post-mint damage. If your 1984 coin has something unusual, do not immediately announce that it is a $1 million error. Photograph it, study it, compare it with authenticated examples, and seek expert opinions when necessary. That is how responsible collecting works. Here at Top Liberty Coins, we want every viewer to become a better observer. When you find a coin, ask yourself 5 simple questions. What is it? When was it made? Where was it made? How was it made? And what makes this individual example different from millions of others? Those questions can transform an ordinary coin search into a real investigation. The first question is identification. Read every inscription. Identify the denomination. Recognize the design. The second question is date. Confirm the year. The third is mint mark. Determine whether the coin came from Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco, or another facility depending on the issue. The fourth is condition. Examine the surfaces without damaging them. The fifth is rarity. Determine whether your coin has an uncommon variety, error, proof characteristic, or unusually high grade. Only after answering those questions should you begin talking seriously about value. Another thing collectors should understand is that retail asking prices are not the same as realized market prices. Someone can place a coin online for an enormous amount of money, but that does not mean someone actually paid that amount. A genuine market value discussion should focus on comparable coins and documented transactions. Auction results can be useful, but even auction prices must be interpreted carefully because grade, certification, eye appeal, rarity, and market conditions can differ. A spectacular coin can bring a spectacular price, while an ordinary example of the same date may remain inexpensive. This is why the claim that every 1984 Liberty coin is worth $787,976.43 would be misleading. There is no responsible way to assign that figure to every 1984 Liberty-related coin. Instead, we should say that a particular coin might be worth substantially more than face value if it has the right combination of rarity, condition, composition, variety, certification, and collector demand. That is a much more useful message for collectors. And remember, valuable coins are not always visually perfect to the untrained eye. Sometimes the most important detail is tiny. It could be a mint mark. It could be a die characteristic. It could be an unusual strike. It could be a proof designation. It could be a rare variety. It could be a condition level that is difficult to achieve. That is why magnification can be useful, although you should never use sharp tools or abrasive materials on the coin. A simple soft surface, good lighting, and careful observation are enough to begin. If you are watching this video because you found a 1984 coin in a jar, congratulations, because you have already taken the first step into the hobby. You do not need to own $1 million coin to be a successful collector. The real reward is learning how to recognize history. A coin can be valuable because it is rare, but it can also be valuable to you because it connects you with a family member, a historic event, a particular decade, or a personal memory. The 1984 Olympic coins are especially interesting because they connect American coinage with one of the world's largest sporting traditions. The word liberty on the coin connects the object with an even older American tradition, one that stretches across generations of United States coinage. That is why a small piece of metal can carry such a large story. Now, if your 1984 coin is a regular Kennedy $50, don't be disappointed if it is not a spectacular rarity. Collecting is not a lottery. A coin does not need to be extremely expensive to be worth studying. A well-preserved example, a proof, a high-grade certified specimen, or an interesting error can still be an excellent addition to a collection. And if your coin is the 1984 Olympic commemorative silver dollar, you have a coin with an important historical connection and a design that deserves careful examination. Check its exact version, mint mark, condition, and certification status before estimating value. The U.S. Mint records different mint facilities and production information for these commemorative issues, and that information can help collectors correctly identify what they own. Another important lesson is to be careful with online videos and social media posts. A dramatic thumbnail showing a coin beside a giant dollar amount does not prove that the coin is worth that amount. Always look for evidence. What is the exact coin? What is the exact grade? Is the coin certified? Was the price actually realized at auction? Is the example comparable? Are there documented sales? These questions can save collectors from unrealistic expectations and potentially costly mistakes. If someone tells you that your 1984 coin is worth a fortune, ask them to explain exactly why. If they cannot identify the variety, mint mark, grade, and evidence supporting the valuation, be cautious. A responsible collector does not rely on excitement alone. A responsible collector verifies. And sometimes the verification is where the real treasure is discovered. You may find that the coin is common, but you may also discover a scarce proof, a high-grade survivor, a genuine error, or a historically important commemorative. Either way, you have learned something valuable. That knowledge is what separates casual coin searching from serious numismatics. So before you put that 1984 coin back into a drawer, take another look. Check the date. Check the design. Check the denomination. Check the mint mark. Examine the surfaces. Look for signs of proof manufacture. Look for genuine anomalies. Do not clean it. Do not polish it. Do not scratch it. Do not assume a huge internet price is automatically real. And if the coin appears genuinely unusual or valuable, get professional opinions before making a major decision. The story of the 1984 Liberty-related coins is ultimately a story about American history, commemorative coinage, collecting, and careful observation. It reminds us that the value of a coin is not written in one simple number. Its value is determined by the combination of what the coin is, how rare it is, how well it survived, how it was produced, and how strongly collectors want it. That is why one 1984 coin can be an ordinary collectible while another can become a much more desirable piece. The difference is in the details. So, if you have a 1984 coin in your collection right now, do not rush to sell it and do not rush to declare yourself a millionaire. Start with identification. Learn its history. Check its condition. Research comparable examples. If necessary, have it authenticated and graded. And most importantly, enjoy the hunt. Because every coin has a story, but only careful collectors learn how to read it. This is Top Liberty Coins, and our mission is to keep looking, keep learning, and keep discovering the fascinating stories hidden inside American coinage. If you enjoyed this deep look at the 1984 Liberty-related coins, make sure you stay with Top Liberty Coins for more stories about old U.S. coins, rare varieties, mint errors, commemoratives, historic designs, and the details that collectors should never overlook. And remember, the next coin you find may not look extraordinary at first glance. It may be sitting quietly in an old collection, a forgotten box, a family drawer, or a group of coins that someone has ignored for years. The real question is not whether every old coin is worth a fortune. The real question is whether you know what to look for. Keep your eyes open, protect your coins, verify the facts, and never stop searching. The next discovery could be waiting in the most ordinary place. This is Top Liberty Coins, and the hunt continues. Today we are looking at a coin that many people may have seen countless times without realizing that there is a story behind it, the 1997 D Lincoln Memorial Cent. If you have a 1997 penny with a small D mint mark, do not throw it away before taking a careful look, because although most 1997 D pennies are common and normally worth around face value when circulated, exceptional examples can bring substantially more money because collectors and grading companies pay close attention to condition, color, strike quality, varieties, and unusual minting characteristics. The 1997 D Lincoln Cent was produced at the Denver Mint, and available numismatic records list a mintage of 4,576,555,000 pieces, which means this is not a coin that is automatically rare simply because it carries the 1997 date and D Mint mark. But this is exactly where the story becomes interesting, because coin collecting is not simply about how old a coin is or how much money somebody claims it could be worth. The real question is what makes one example different from another. A coin can have the same date, the same mint mark, the same basic design, and the same denomination, yet two examples can have dramatically different collector appeal because one has heavy circulation damage while the other has brilliant original surfaces and an exceptionally high certified grade. That is why today we are going to examine the 1997 D penny from every important angle and explain what collectors should actually look for. The first thing to understand is the identity of this coin. The 1997 D is a Lincoln Memorial Cent struck at the Denver Mint. The D below or near the date on the obverse tells collectors that the coin was made in Denver. The coin measures approximately 19 mm across and weighs about 2.5 grams, and it belongs to the copper-plated zinc era of the Lincoln Cent. On the front of the coin we see the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right. Above Lincoln is the powerful inscription "In God We Trust." To the left is Liberty, while the date 1997 appears to the right, accompanied by the D mint mark indicating Denver. On the reverse is the Lincoln Memorial, surrounded by the inscriptions United States of America, E pluribus unum, and 1 cent. The design connects this small coin to a much larger story in American history. The Lincoln Cent itself has a long history, and the memorial reverse continued from 1959 through 2008 before the design changed in 2009. The 1997 D therefore belongs to the final decades of the Lincoln Memorial Cent era, a period when billions of cents were produced for everyday commerce. But remember this important point: a huge mintage does not mean that every surviving example is equally easy to find in exceptional condition. Millions and millions of coins entered circulation, passed through countless hands, traveled through cash registers, vending machines, drawers, pockets, jars, and coin machines, and suffered scratches, discoloration, contact marks, dents, and wear. Over time, truly attractive high-grade examples can become much harder for collectors to locate than ordinary circulated examples. This is one reason condition matters so much. When you pick up a 1997 D penny, the first question should not be, how much is this worth? The first question should be, what condition is this coin actually in? If the coin has been heavily circulated, with obvious wear across Lincoln's portrait, scratches on the fields, dark discoloration, dents, or damaged edges, it will normally have very little premium. Above 1 cent numismatic reference sources show ordinary 1997 D examples in circulated condition generally remain inexpensive, while uncirculated examples can command higher prices depending on grade and appearance. This is why a collector should never assume that every 1997 D penny is a hidden fortune. At the same time, you should never assume that every common date penny is worthless. The exciting part of coin collecting is learning how to separate the ordinary examples from the truly exceptional ones. Imagine finding a 1997 cent that still has bright original red surfaces, sharp details, minimal contact marks, strong luster, and an unusually high certified grade. Suddenly, the conversation changes. Instead of being just another penny from circulation, that coin could become a collectible condition rarity. Professional grading services use designations such as brown, and red to describe the color characteristics of copper-based coins, and for modern copper-plated zinc cents, preservation of attractive original surfaces can have a major influence on collector demand. PCGS records specifically list the 1997 Lincoln cent in brown, and red proof-like categories. So when you are examining your coin, look carefully at the color. Is it dark brown? Is it mixed brown and red? Does it retain a strong original red appearance? Is the surface bright and clean, or is it covered with scratches and marks? These observations can help you understand why two apparently identical pennies can have completely different market values. Another important factor is the minting process. The 1997 Lincoln cent was produced from copper-plated zinc, rather than the older solid bronze composition used on many earlier Lincoln cents. That means collectors should be aware of plating issues, surface damage, environmental discoloration, and other characteristics associated with modern cents. A coin that has lost part of its copper-colored surface is not automatically a rare mint error. Damage can happen after a coin leaves the mint, and collectors need to distinguish genuine mint-made characteristics from post-mint damage. This distinction is extremely important because the internet is filled with dramatic claims about ordinary coins supposedly being worth thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. A photograph or social media post can make a coin sound extraordinary, but serious valuation requires evidence. A legitimate valuation depends on the exact coin, its condition, its variety, its authenticity, its certification if applicable, and comparable sales or recognized market information. That brings us to one of the most exciting questions surrounding today's coin. Could a 1997 penny really be worth an enormous amount of money? You may have seen sensational claims online suggesting figures such as $787,976.42 or other unbelievable amounts. Here at Top Liberty Coins, we want to make one thing absolutely clear. There is no reliable evidence that an ordinary 1997 Lincoln cent is currently worth $787,976.42. Published references instead show that normal 1997 cents are generally inexpensive, while exceptional certified specimens can be worth considerably more than face value. PCGS reports an auction record of $863 for a 1997 red Lincoln cent graded MS-68, sold by Heritage Auctions in September 2007, demonstrating that truly exceptional pieces can indeed bring substantial premiums, but that is very different from claiming that every 1997 penny is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. This distinction is essential if you want to create trustworthy coin content. The most interesting story is not that every penny is secretly worth a fortune. The real story is that a coin with billions struck can still produce a small number of highly desirable condition rarities, and collectors need knowledge to identify them. Think about what happens to a penny after it is released. It might spend years in circulation. It can be dropped on concrete, rubbed against other coins, exposed to moisture, carried in a pocket, placed in a cash drawer, or handled repeatedly. Every one of these events can leave a mark. Now imagine another coin that was removed from a roll shortly after minting, placed carefully into storage, protected from contact and environmental damage, and preserved for decades. Both coins might say 1997, but their collector appeal could be completely different. That is the fascinating world of coin grading. A high-grade coin must preserve the details that collectors want to see. Lincoln's hair, cheek, jawline, and other design elements should remain sharp. The fields around the portrait should be relatively clean. The lettering should be clear. The date and mint mark should be well defined. On the reverse, the Lincoln memorial should display strong detail, and the surfaces should not be overwhelmed by scratches or damage. Even small marks can become important when a coin reaches the highest grades because the difference between an excellent coin and an almost perfect coin can be extremely subtle. This is why professional grading exists. A professional grading company evaluates a coin and assigns a grade according to established standards, then encapsulates the coin so collectors can identify and preserve that certified example. PCGS currently lists the 1997 D Lincoln cent as a modern Lincoln cent and provides separate information for different color designations and grades. Another fascinating aspect of the 1997 D cent is its survival. PCGS's estimates indicate that enormous. Today we are taking a fascinating look at a 2004 American Silver Eagle, a coin that may appear familiar at first glance but becomes much more interesting when you examine the details. If you have a 2004 Liberty coin in your collection, inherited an old coin from a family member, discovered one in a collection, or simply enjoy searching through American coins, stay with us because there are several important things you should know before deciding what your coin might be worth. The first thing we need to clarify is exactly what we are talking about. The 2004 coin commonly described by collectors as the Liberty coin is the American Silver Eagle, a $1 United States silver bullion coin featuring Adolph A. Weinman's famous Walking Liberty design on the obverse. The 2004 issue was the 19th year of the American Silver Eagle series, and official collector references report a mintage of 8,882,754 bullion coins. The entire bullion production was made at the West Point Mint, but the regular bullion pieces do not carry a mint mark. The coin contains 1 troy ounce of silver and is struck in .999 fine silver, making its intrinsic precious metal content one of the most important factors in its value. But here is where the story becomes especially interesting. A 2004 American Silver Eagle is not automatically worth hundreds of thousands of dollars simply because it is old, and there is no reliable evidence that every 2004 example is worth a sensational figure such as $787,976.41. Numbers like that should never be presented as the normal market value of an ordinary 2004 Silver Eagle. Real coin values depend on condition, certification, variety, provenance, demand, precious metal prices, and actual completed sales. Current reference information gives ordinary examples values far below that enormous figure, while exceptionally high grades and special circumstances can bring substantially higher prices than ordinary pieces. That difference between an exciting headline and a real collectible market is exactly what makes coin collecting so fascinating. The 2004 American Silver Eagle was introduced during a period when the series was already well established among bullion investors and collectors. The American Silver Eagle program had begun in 1986, and its obverse revived the beautiful Walking Liberty design created by Adolph A. Weinman, originally used on United States half dollars from 1916 through 1947. Weinman's Liberty walks confidently toward the rising sun, wrapped in the American flag, carrying branches that symbolize strength and peace. The design is one of the most recognizable images in American numismatics, and when the United States Mint adapted it for the American Silver Eagle program, the result became one of the most popular modern American silver coins. The reverse of the 2004 Silver Eagle features a heraldic eagle with a shield, an olive branch, and arrows, designed by John Mercanti. Together, these two sides give the coin an extraordinary combination of history and modern bullion importance. When you hold a 2004 American Silver Eagle, you are holding a coin connected to an older artistic tradition while also owning a modern 1-ounce silver investment piece. That combination is one reason collectors continue to follow the series. Another important point is the difference between face value and collector value. The coin carries a legal tender denomination of $1, but nobody should assume that its market value is only $1. Its 1 ounce of silver alone gives it a value substantially above its face value, and collector-grade examples can command premiums beyond their metal value. Current NGC information lists the 2004 American Silver Eagle as containing 1 troy ounce of silver and gives a recent melt value around $60.93 based on the silver price used in its July 7, 2026 data. NGC's July 22, 2026 price guide also showed values rising with grade, with examples around the mid-$60s through the lower grades of mint state, approximately $75 in MS68, $115 in MS69, and $130 in MS70. These numbers demonstrate something extremely important for every coin hunter watching this video: condition matters. A coin that looks nearly perfect to the naked eye can still have tiny marks, hairlines, contact scratches, or surface imperfections that prevent it from receiving the highest possible grade. Professional grading companies examine coins under controlled conditions and assign grades based on preservation and other characteristics. That means you should never clean your coin simply because you want it to look brighter. Cleaning can permanently damage the original surface and may reduce collector appeal. If your 2004 Silver Eagle has beautiful original surfaces, leaving it untouched may be far better than attempting to polish or chemically clean it. Now let us talk about why 2004 is an interesting date. According to collector references, 8,882,754 bullion Silver Eagles were produced in 2004. That is a substantial mintage, so the date itself does not automatically make every example rare. However, rarity in modern coins is not determined by mintage alone. The population of surviving coins in particular grades, the number of coins that remain attractive after years of handling, and the demand for certified high-grade examples can all influence value. This is why a coin with millions originally struck can still have a much smaller population at the very highest grades. A collector looking for a complete set may want a superb 2004 example, while an investor may care more about silver content and the premium over melt value. Those two buyers can view the same coin very differently. The condition of your coin is therefore one of the first things you should investigate. Look carefully at the Liberty figure, the folds of the flag, the sun, the lettering, the date, and the open fields. On the reverse, examine the eagle, shield, stars, lettering, and smooth areas around the design. Small marks are especially important because large open surfaces can reveal contact marks very easily. If the coin has been stored in a tube or loose collection for many years, it may have picked up marks even though it was never circulated. If it has been professionally graded, the certification can make valuation easier because the coin has an independently assigned grade. But even a certified coin should be evaluated against actual market transactions rather than a dramatic number seen on social media. One of the most useful lessons for collectors is to distinguish an asking price from a completed sale. A seller can list an ordinary coin for an extremely high amount, but that does not mean anyone has actually paid that amount. Actual completed transactions provide much stronger evidence of market value. Recent PCGS auction data, for example, records a 2004 American Silver Eagle graded MS69 selling in the roughly $36 to $37 range in a 2024 eBay auction, while current price guides can show different values based on their own methodologies and more recent market conditions. Other high-grade examples have sold for substantially more. This is why the exact grade, certification company, date of sale, market conditions, and coin presentation all matter. The market is not a single fixed number. It moves. Silver prices move. Collector demand moves. Auction results move. Population reports change as more coins are submitted for grading. All of these factors can affect what a coin is worth at a particular moment. Another fascinating part of the 2004 Silver Eagle story is the relationship between the coin and the price of silver. In 2004, the average silver price was approximately $6.67 per ounce according to historical market information cited by Silver.com, meaning the precious metal environment was dramatically different from today. The Silver Eagle itself had a face value of only $1, but its 1 ounce of silver gave it a much higher intrinsic value. Over the following decades, changes in the silver market transformed the relationship between the coin's face value and its metal value. This is an excellent reminder that a coin can have several layers of value at the same time. There is face value, bullion value, collector value, and potentially premium value for exceptional condition. The most valuable examples often combine several of these factors. Now imagine someone discovers a 2004 silver eagle in an old box. At first, it may look like a simple $1 coin. But then they notice the walking Liberty design. They see the date 2004. They realize the coin is silver. They inspect the surface and discover that it has remarkably few marks. Suddenly the coin deserves a much closer examination. Maybe it is an ordinary ungraded example. Maybe it is a high-grade candidate. Maybe it has already been certified. The important point is that you cannot determine its value from the date alone. You have to investigate the complete story. That is exactly the mindset every successful coin collector develops.